And away we go. Y'all may have noticed lately, I've been opting not to do any sort of intro music and just kind of jump right into it. I feel like a couple of reasons, like it's boring. Like there's a minute, it's just really boring. Wait, let me mute this. And I was using it as a bit of a crutch. I say I'm going to start at 7:30, barring technical issues. I should start at 7:30. I shouldn't. I mean, I guess it's starting at 7. Is it starting at 7:30? If I just go to a load screen at 7:30 and leave it there until whenever I feel like it? No, I don't think so. My friends, I don't believe that. Welcome to Beyond the Double Red Doors, episode 85. Finally. It's an 8 and a 5. 85. 85 episodes. Because I attended college, I can determine 14 more episodes and then the 100th episode. So at the rate that, I'm going, 14 more episodes could easily take 28 weeks. But let's take into account things like, let's be realistic for a moment. Let's take into account holidays. I don't even know when Christmas falls this year. When does Christmas fall this year? No. But let's say it takes, all right, maybe I can't. Look, a bachelor's only gets you so far. Let's say that it takes 18 weeks for me to get in another 14 episodes. Are we going to just, oh man, no, we're not even close. Gosh, in my head, man, the end of the year is just, it's right there. The end of the year is right there. Wow. New Year's and Christmas both fall on weekends, which sucks for those whose day off work schedules are somewhat dictated by when those holidays fall. It's not going to be this year. Very naive of me to think that. So I wanted, but okay, so yeah, welcome. Episode 85. Let's not talk about episode 100. Coming spring of 2023. Let's talk about episode 85, where I'd like to be calm. I'd like to get in touch with my inner self. And what better way to do that? I thought it's been a while than to possibly share some of the wit and the wisdom of soon-to-be governor or senator, president, vice president, Supreme Court Justice, Matthew McConaughey. So I've brought this up before. This is not Green Lights the book, because I like agency. So I don't read books, I write books. That sounds like something that he would write. That sounds like something that he would say, honestly. He gives off some of that Garth Marenghi energy. I don't know if you all know who Garth Marenghi is. He is a character created by Matthew Holness in the UK, a horror writer who he self-avowed has written more than he has read. He learns more from himself than he does from other authors. Yeah, that sounds like something Matthew McConaughey would say, but he would say it with a bit of with a sly smile. You wouldn't know. Like, is he being really serious? Is he kind of joking? Is he being genuine? Maybe. Could it possibly be true? Should we all maybe just listen to whatever Matthew McConaughey says? I know I give him shit, but it's only because he's just so pompous. Like it seems like maybe his heart's in the right place. But he's I'd never seen this before. So I can say like if you're writing, okay, he had, I'm sure, full editorial control of this. I've looked in this book before, and I've read some passages from it, right? Because he has little, writing prompts, little thoughts for the day that he likes to share. So I'm sure, and maybe I did see this and I forgot it, but I just read this and it struck me as amazing that the very first page, the inside of the very first page, the first words you read when you open this book are, "When we see ourselves truly, there is an instant attraction." I really firmly believe that the opposite is true. I think if any one of us actually saw ourselves for how we really were, how we truly were, we would be in a state of, we would be apoplectic, I think is the only word I can use there. What a nightmare. I've spent the majority of my life erecting quite rigid compartments in my own brain to prevent myself from seeing more than a slight truth about myself at any given moment, because I can only take so much. And the idea that you could actually see yourself en toto as you really are. First of all, if you were attracted to that, I don't know, it feels a little bit arrogant to me, but on brand, surely. So I'm going to do an exercise. I'm going to put myself out there. And I'm not trying to be self-deprecating here. I'm trying to actually be like, there is definitely value in like honestly trying to see the parts of yourself that you attempt to keep hidden. This is probably why. Go back and freeze frame that. This is a prescription. I went to see my doctor recently. She gave me 2 prescriptions. One for an MRI of my brain, and one for a psychiatrist, even though I already see a psychiatrist. So I'm taking that as a badge of honor. My doctor either thinks one of 2 things. Like either there's something physiologically malformed in my brain, or I need to see a psychiatrist in addition to the psychiatrist that I see already. She knows I see a psychiatrist. She doesn't know the psychiatrist I see. She knows I see a psychiatrist. I think it is the particular specialty of this psychiatrist. And, when it comes to, sharing with you, my companions here, my friend. Do I call you friends? I don't know, man. I'd like to. Sometimes you feel like friends. Sometimes it's y'all are just like a weight on my back, and I don't know what to do about it. Don't know how to get away. I feel chased. I have dreams where I turn around and there's Nasha running full speed, and she does not look happy. Very upset. And, Butterfly Composer. Butterfly Composer is, in my head, is kind of Phoenix Wright. Has the briefcase chasing me. The flaps of the jacket sort of going in the wind. Which you can draw, by the way, by just taking a sine wave and then animating it from left to right and filling in the top of the sine wave to the top of wherever your flappy material is. Who else? Q. Well, Q would be leading the charge, saying stuff like this, like screaming the top of their lungs. I can't. Apparently, I cannot do this. Albatross. Yes. Let's. I prefer Xanadu to the Ancient Mariner personally, but that's because I loved Olivia Newton-John. I'm still not really over what happened there. So let me take a moment. Let's all do this. Why don't we do this as an exercise with each other? Let's take a moment, and obviously you don't have to do this because this could be triggering for some people. This is going to be triggering for me, if I'm honest. Maybe I won't be honest. You'll never know. I'm going to write down 6 things about myself that I hate. I'm going to write 6 traits about myself, 6 characteristic traits about myself that I hate, okay? That I wish I could get rid of. And y'all do the same. And we can talk through it together. That's relaxing. It's relaxing because I'm interested to if there was a way for us all to show them immediately, that'd be great. Maybe I can do a poll. Well, you don't get that many options, but I could do some sort of poll where, I'm curious if any of you share. I'm sure, of course you do. Of course, that's why you're hanging out here. We have the same. We are simpatico in our neurodivergence. And I'm just saying 6. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. So 6 things that I really dislike about myself and really wish that I could change. Okay. I am controlling. I have anger issues. I am a compulsive liar. Let me see something I really hate. I mean, do I hate? Because I'm thinking stuff like I'm a hypochondriac, right? Do I hate that? I don't know if I hate that. I would prefer not to be a hypochondriac. But no, you know what? I do hate that. It stops me from doing a lot of things. I am ruled by fear. Is that a characteristic? Probably be better if that was drilled down to more like, what is the fear? Right? And it's a little broad. We're all ruled by fear, probably. So yeah, no, that doesn't really, I feel like I got to be more specific. So hypochondriac. Well, it's kind of tied to like controlling. I fear a loss of control. I'm cruel. Often for very little reason. Let's see. I sometimes, how would I phrase this? Like I sometimes delight in the misfortune of others. In misfortune of others. See, the thing is that now there's some other things, right? Like, I don't value the sanctity of life, but that's not something I hate. It's not something that I would change. And it's actually probably not 100% correct. Like, I value life for its particular merits. I just don't like value human life just across the board for no reason at all, right? I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's kind of like the yes, Q. And I will remind you that the correct pronunciation for this is scootin' fruity. So really, like, I don't want to hear all this. I don't know if I ever told you, like, I briefly had a psychiatrist years ago who like tried to get me like pronunciation of things. Particularly Goethe. He asked me if I had read Faust. And I wanted to say, which part, 1 or 2? But no, I said yes. And he said, yeah, it's crazy how that guy's name is pronounced. How is it pronounced again? Like totally just like he didn't think I read Faust, or he thought I was going to say Goethe or something like that. But I think he probably just didn't think that I had read Faust. But he was trying to humiliate me. This is the first psychiatrist I ever had who was introducing cognitive behavioral therapy to me. And boy, I did not stick with that long. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, but some of these are like subsets of others. So, controlling anger issues, compulsive liar, hypochondriac, loss of control, cruel, delight in the misfortune of others. I mean, I'm selfish. Yeah. Vain. Sociopathic, that's not a, you can't say that, right? That's not a thing. I guess selfish and vain kind of feeds into narcissistic. Again, here's another one. Like, I'm very cynical, but I don't know that I'd get rid of that. Maybe I would tone it down a little bit. I don't know if I would get rid of it. It is impossible for me. I'm a bit solipsistic. It's almost impossible for me to make long-term plans. I'm not sure what you'd call that. Let's call it, it's impossible to make long-term plans. I'm just short-sighted, right? All right. This is more than enough, right? Controlling anger problems, compulsive liar, hypochondriac. Fear, loss of control. I'm cruel. I delight in the misfortune of others. Selfish and vain / narcissistic. Cynical, short-sighted. Now, the fact that I put compulsive liar here, this means that I'm an unreliable narrator of my own psyche, right? But it's I've talked about this before. Like I'm trying to not do this, but I will lie about the dumbest things in the world, like just dumb things. That don't have like like sometimes I'll do that and when there's just absolutely no net improvement, there's no reason for me to do it. It's not like I'm lying like about an accomplishment or something. Oh, sure, I've done that, but like sometimes I will just lie just because maybe somebody's asked me something I've answered a bunch of times before, and now I want to try answering it a different way. I want to pick another dialogue option. I'm tired of picking the same dialogue option all the time. What happens if I try this one? How off the rails does the game veer? Or is it the Python method of game design where you have an illusion of choice? I mean, I am a determinist, right? So actually, if I'm a determinist, then I shouldn't give a fuck about any of these things, right? Like all of these things I can't do anything about them anyway. Or I am doing what I would be doing about them, but I can't choose to be doing things about them. Let's see. So did y'all, I'd be curious if any of you, well, here, why don't I do this? I don't remember offhand. I gotta remember to mute this tab though. Otherwise, shit won't get crazy. Okay. Make a poll. Oh, first poll already ended. Yes, no, okay. First poll was, do you think I have any chance of keeping my promise of being solely relaxing and or uplifting? This is not, is this, I mean, relatively speaking, this is relaxing and or uplifting. So, yes, 23%, no, 8%, no, lull, 31%. I give it 30 seconds, 38%. I'd say that depends on who you are. So how about this poll? Okay. I just spilled my Coke. I got nothing to clean it up with on hand. On the positive side, it spilled on the keyboard that I hate. So really, don't really care that much. Let's turn this off. And I will clean it up with a paper towel I'm going to be honest here, I took out of the garbage. I had a friend over over the weekend who I hadn't seen in a while. I did a stream with him, and he noticed that I have hand moisturizer next to my computer, and he gave me one of those. Like, I know what that's for, and I was like, no. What do you? I knew what he thought it was for, and I was like, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, moisturizer, like next to your bed or next to your computer. And I was like, who? Dude, that's what Astroglide is for. That's what, There's another one that's good. That's water based. You can't masturbate with hand lotion like that. It's like glue. It doesn't work at all. Apparently, it does for some and didn't for me. Where did I get off track? Oh, the poll. Sorry. I went on an onanistic bent for a moment there. All right, so I guess I'm curious, like, do any of these negative traits, or do you possess any of the following negative traits? I think this is anonymous. I don't think I can see. Control freak. Liar. Hypochondriac. Probably should have had this set up. Are you cruel? Oh, that's it. 4. That's disappointing, I have to say. Let's try it with these first 4. And see what we get. But also, if you want to just post the ones, I want to look at what y'all are comfortable saying. And also say hi to everybody. Oh, hey, Andy. And bye, Andy. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of masturbation talk. Okay. Where do we see people starting with this? Hollow Fox. Fear of social action. Fear of doing new things. Now, I'm curious about that, like new things. Like, new things as in like a new realm of what? Like going to a new restaurant, like that probably wouldn't count, maybe? Easily distracted, I have that too. Yeah, I should have put that. Forgets things constantly, can't think of a 6th. I don't know if that was supposed to be meta or not, but in a way, it kind of was. Jeff, I don't know if this was to my list, but I'm definitely not cool with those aspects of myself. Sea cow. Lazy, mean, impatient. Yeah, impatience. I should have put that too. No creativity of any kind. I mean, just your profile picture and your screen name shows creativity. Just a box of rocks. Lack of intelligence. I need 6 more minimum. So, like, what? Cruel, mean, it's the same kind of thing, right? I would take umbrage with your no creativity of any kind. If you had no creativity of any kind, you would, oh man, I was just about to be cruel. I won't do it by calling out someone with a less imaginative screen name. Okay. Pivy, no. Okay, short doesn't count. Prone to addiction does. Strange violent tendencies, yes. I don't care about many people and things. I socially and culturally ought to. I'm lazy. I'm short. You had to put that twice. Yeah, I'm talking more psychological characteristics. So lazy seems to be coming up. And meanness, which manifests or can manifest as violence. certainly, right? Oh, man. Okay, well, I mean, we could have learned something. Could have learned something about yourself, but oh well. Q, determinism is such a crock. I mean, it's just complete fact. I mean, it's true that it's sort of a crock in that it doesn't allow you to do anything about it, right? But I don't believe in free will, at least not the way that we sort of colloquially define it. Oh, this is not relaxing or uplifting? I mean, maybe not uplifting. Jeff, let's see yours. Argumentative. Yeah, I have that too. That's all kind of like anger, cruel, and yeah. Too concerned about what people think. I think I am too. And it's very cool, right, to say, like, there are a few things that like people say a lot that I just don't buy, right? Like, one is I don't care what other people think. I really feel like most people do. And a lot of times the cruel part of me will, when somebody says that, point out what seems to me to be a contradiction there. Let's get you back up, Jeff. That, and then, people who say they have no fear of death. Sorry. I'm not saying that there aren't people who have no fear of death. I just think that number is very, 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 very low and misrepresented by a bunch of compulsive liars. And they may even be able to compartmentalize that and not be aware of it for themselves. Damn it, this is like the one time I want comments to stay up. Arrogant. Yeah. With those glasses, I would. They're screaming arrogance. Hard for me to let things go. Oh man, yes, I hold grudges. Use stress as a motivation. I don't 100% get that. Nasha, addictive personality. Look at this. We got this all over the place. Oh, let's look at this. So of the 19 votes, it's not great, but actually maybe people don't have these things, but 32% of you control freaks, 42% liars, 21% hypochondriacs, only 5% cruel. Huh. Well, I don't know how I feel about that. Let's try one. Let's do another 4 that are common. Selfish, cynical, was addictive. Oh, you can only pick one. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't really work very well like this then, does it? Yeah, this isn't actually giving us very good. This is not giving us good data. I'll do this last one, but I think it's better just going over the comments, really. Okay, sorry. Finish up, Nasha. Severely apathetic. I just think you're severely pathetic, Nasha. was a joke. It was a joke. Not me being cruel. Doesn't like to work on maintaining human relationships. Would rather nap. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I spill Coke on my keyboard all the time. All the time. I just generally hope that it's the keyboard that I don't like. Oh, see, hi, Anna. Anna's feeling relaxed. It's nice to bathe. Maybe this is maybe an exercise in my own delight in the misfortune of others. I get blisters on my hands. My hands get dry. I play guitar. I need lotion by my computer. It's got to be there, and by my bed. No, I wasn't thinking I was thinking of Sliquid, I think is the one I was thinking of. But Katerina, incapable of remembering simple things. There are things I can't regret. Talking too much. Too childish for your age. Too childish for your age kind of seems like that. I mean, if that's something you hate about yourself, that's something you hate about yourself. But I wonder, like, a lot of people would see that as a virtue. Anybody else? Charlie, a misanthrope. Yeah. See no hope or future. Not a dinosaur or a dragon. Phobia of dogs. Summertime. You have summertime seasonal affective disorder? And that you tend to speak before you think. I mean, being a misanthrope is certainly a big one, right? Yeah, I'd probably have to put that too. More like just like a I guess grumpy introvert. That's sort of a variation. It's strange that you get summertime seasonal affective disorder. It's interesting. Maybe. Well, so I'm talking about like the kind of cruel where I think a lot of people are cruel, whether they fess up to it or not. And we see this manifest in like close personal relationships or family relationships. It tends to be something that you mask with people that you don't know as well. And paradoxically enough, the people you possibly care about the most end up being the targets of your ire. But that's not an excuse, right? We can control that, and we should. I try to. Trouser Mouse, I've never seen you before. So I still have not completed Disco Elysium, but Measurehead is, it depends what form that idolization takes. A funny character, though. Hey, Olivia, and hey, Stacy, and Amy, and I don't know if this is directed to me, but I was actually just talking to someone about this last night, where I was like, if you bring up Young right now, I'm not having it. Oh, Anna. Not cool. Well, anything, just 6 things about yourself that you wish you could change that you really dislike. Is being a smartass being cruel? I don't think so. There's a threshold there at which, you go from being a smartass to being a cruel, and you can inadvertently cross it probably. But I don't know. I feel like being a smartass can be endearing in small amounts, in movies, in characters in movies. Prone to wrath and enjoy seeing idiots get their comeuppance. I'm right there. Right there with you. We all are like, we all deserve our heads in a box and Morgan Freeman cutting it open. We all deserve to have our own personal Kevin Spaceys. Kevin Spaceys. It's a complaint. It's just not a psychological complaint, right? Okay, let's see. Hollow Fox. You used to be so concerned about what people thought of you. It's become eroded as you started giving less of a fuck. Yeah, I think generally, let's just end this poll because it's not really giving us any. Addictive personality, though, 38%. Is this kind of like, the spike of left-handedness? Like everybody used to drink. Like the proportion of the population, especially the working class, middle class population who drank to excess in a manner that it was still accepted as like not being an issue, is different today. Like I wonder if we've given ourselves so many avenues by which we can be, our addictive personalities can manifest, that now we see it a lot more. But either way, yeah. Let's see. Hi. Lazy, unambitious, nervous, argumentative, cynical, hedonistic, easily distracted. Well, that is like some of what I'm hearing, like a lot of this. I'm not a doctor, but a fair amount of what I'm hearing sounds like, some level of attention deficit. But were you saying, Hi, that being hedonistic is something that you wish you could get rid of? Like do you think that the pursuit of pleasure is inherently a negative, or just when you sort of prioritize that pursuit of pleasure above deeper things, which I also kind of think that's bullshit too. Trouser Mouse, my fear of death seems to be greater than everyone else. I have a profound joy of life and existence that the idea of an end absolutely terrifies me. So I have a huge fear of death, but I don't like my life. So that's paradoxical to me. I don't understand it. Like, and the Epictetus quote about when we are, death is not, and when death is, we are not, doesn't make me feel any better. Doesn't make me feel any better when people say like you didn't exist for millions, 14 billion years before whenever you were born. So really, like, for 99.99999% of the universe's history, you have not existed. You're just going back to that state. Okay, bullshit. So that's bullshit. Yes, you are going back to that state. And once you have reached that state, then you're right. It doesn't matter. And this is the same problem I have with the Epictetus quote. The problem is, and I think I talked about this last week, so I don't want to go on too much about it, but we all of us spend our lives creating who we are, right? And creating and accumulating attachments, whether they're internal or external or whatever it is. So this is why, like, opinion here. To me, while, I'm not saying that I would kill a child, but abortion is a non-issue for me. That is a creature, whether it is alive or not, whether it is conscious or not, that does not have the inherent fuck, man, I feel like I'm about to get myself in trouble here. The inherent sort of thought of, oh no, everything that I have wrought is now going to be gone, right? And it's almost like it's weird too, because the longer you live, I've always hoped that the longer I live, the less attached I will be to life. And that, when I was younger, that gave me some comfort, because it was sort of like, okay, look, you're afraid of the high dive, right? But if I told you that by the time you were doing a high dive, you wouldn't be afraid of it, then you don't have to be afraid of the high dive. I mean, all that matters is the moment. All that really matters is the moment in which you die. And like Ricky Gervais, like, has talked about, like, oh, as long as I can go in my sleep, right, then I won't mind. I want no warning. I just want one night I want to go to sleep and not wake up, and I don't want to know when that's going to happen. It doesn't work for me either. Like that just makes it hard for me to go to sleep. But I feel like so I had this sort of idea in my head. I know this is a common philosophical tenet that, as you age, just like you have, very strong sexual drive at a certain age, and, a strong urge to, like, branch out and try things at a certain age, and these things happen. My hope was that there was some natural process by which, by the time I hit a certain age, I would be less averse to the idea of death. I don't, maybe that's true, but it certainly hasn't been the case. And when I look at, like, well, no, the longer that I live, the more I'll be used to living, and the more attachments I will have in the world. And even if I'm miserable, it is a known misery. Maybe the only thing I can think of that might, and yet I've also seen, like, the way that, like, when you go into surgery and they give you whatever the medication is, depending on the surgery, right, before you actually go into surgery, I've been in those states where they've administered that medication, and I'm not talking about the anesthetic. Maybe it's part of the anesthetic. That's not the count backwards from 10 part. And I've been in the state of mind where it's just been like, it's all cool. It's all right. If I die on the operating table, it's okay. And I've genuinely felt that way. So my hope is just that you have a moment like that. And there was a moment in True Detective, speaking of Matthew McConaughey, right, where that was very sort of laid out, where Russ Cole was looking at pictures of victims and basically saying, like, you could see something in their eyes, like they just knew in that last moment they could just let it all go, right? So if there is some sort of redemption like that, you still are going through all of the horrifying fear leading up to that. And yet if you go through all that horrifying fear and survive, and you're like, well, I'm okay with that, or I'm more okay with that than dying, then maybe those things equate. I don't know. It seems like any sort of, the more you try and, or I try and, like, talk myself into some logical reason why fear of death doesn't make any sense, it just becomes more and more, if anything, it makes me more and more despairing, because they don't actually do anything for me. They don't do anything for me. I could think about them and I can think, yeah, that makes sense. But in the moment, they don't do anything for me. When I get arrhythmias, right? Like every time I get one, I completely all philosophy out the window, all sort of grand scheme of looking at things out the window. Everything goes, and it's nothing but animalistic panic. And that sucks. So this is certainly not uplifting anymore. Shayna, arrogance, insecurity. No, I feel like a lot of people are both arrogant and insecure, and maybe the insecurity comes from the arrogance, or maybe they're in different areas of your life. Overthinking, not good at setting boundaries with others. I have that one too. Not good at self-care. Impatient for results. So you mean like, if you're exercising, you want to see an immediate change, that kind of thing. I'm guessing that's what you mean. Yeah, Billy Corgan right here. Yeah. No meaning or purpose. Sure, yeah, and that can be freeing. I find that, I share that. When I recently took one of those, it was some test that, one of those tests that at the urging of a friend, I took one of these tests. And it showed you where you are on the spectrum of like nihilism versus material. I forget exactly. Well, actually, I have it right here. I got it right here, and I can share it with you all. You can just see where I fall on this psychology test that I'm sure is of no diagnostic value whatsoever. But maybe, it's nice to learn about yourself. Maybe tell you something about yourself. Maybe. Does this have my name in it? And Q, I am taking a tip from you. I am making sure there's nothing here that can dox me. And let's do it. Okay, so yeah. 50% materialism versus spiritualism. Now, that was like a misnomer, right? Because the questions they were asking were like either or questions. And I don't see materialism and spiritualism as an opposition like this. So some of the questions I was answering, my line is not there. And I don't think those things should be set in opposition with each other. Egoism versus altruism. I also disagree with this. I think I am more of an egotist. But again, I don't feel like the questions that were asked were really great. Idealism versus pragmatism. They were asking like some questions about utopia and, if it's of any effort to try and make strides towards any sort of utopic society. Hedonism, well, so I think I'm more of a hedonist. I don't think I am. Give me Dionysus and let's go. So I'm not clear why that came to that. The nihilism versus moralism. Again, I don't feel like those things should be in opposition to each other necessarily, but okay, that's okay. Rationalism versus romanticism, definitely split on that. And then skepticism versus absolutism. Yes, those were pretty much right on. And yes, I realize I gave away some of my data in filling out that chart. Let's move on. Oh, you're paying. Just not in money. Anu 742. Shy, overly self-critical, lack of motivation, willpower, see things through. Bad short-term memory. That seems to be a common one, too. Too horny. Well, give it time. Too overthinking and overly cautious. So a lot of these seem linked, right? A lack of confidence and being too hard on yourself and too self-critical can lead you to be overly cautious, right? Like that's I'm not sure where this came from, but people want to ask that, answer that, that's fine. Colorful. Well, this is good news for maybe people who are having trouble struggling with the idea of change and if real change is possible. Ironically, like it seems, I mean, I'm speaking anecdotally, right? It's pretty easy to change for the worse. That's no problem at all. Going downhill, that can be fun for a while. I'm not sure, butterfly, I'm not sure what this is referring to. Maybe some UK stuff. Jeff, I'm definitely not. Yeah, I can definitely be cruel. Just, generally people are not going to see it here. You'd have to be very close to me, and then you get it. Capsaicin. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about this. Olivia, I worry too much about the little things. Sweating the small stuff. But what is the small stuff, right? Can be moody, existential dread, and highly self-critical. So we seem to be a group of addicted, self-critical people who fear death, and a fair number of us are, liars. Amy, borderline personality disorder. Judgmental as fuck, insufferable, know-it-all. Can't do better when I know better. Don't belong anywhere. Self-loathing. Some of those are right in line with BPD. Some of them are NPD. Seems like, right? Like I have like these classifications of groups of traits, fairly arbitrary, not necessarily that useful. I'll cue this again, not necessary, but kind. I'm not role-playing. I'm not a doctor, nor am I role-playing a doctor at the moment. Wow, hi, you and I are at polar opposites there. Oh, welcome, Trouser Mouse. Okay, Stacy. Constantly worry about everything. Don't like change of routine. Care about what people think too much. So that should have been added as well. Social interaction, sort of being introverted. Same. Trouser Mouse. You try to overpower people with intelligence and esoteric ramblings when they annoy me. You can be very selfish and one-track minded. You love debate but can't see the other side. And you have snideness. Well, in your very first one, you said you overpower people with intelligence and esoteric ramblings. So the fact that you used the word esoteric, I'm guilty of the same stupid shit. But, I can see where number one manifests itself. Okay. Yes, I'm very far behind. Let me catch up. I mean, miss. Hey, Maddie. Good to see you. All right, I'm gonna come down to the bottom here. Oh, good night, Ms. Again, glad that you are safe and well. All right, let me skip down to this. I found this pretty fascinating. I mean, I very, very much suspect that a pretty large percentage of the population suffers from a lot of these same things. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Try and get better. Oh, good night, Shana. Thank you for stopping by. This is like, so I don't like this take, Pavi, and I'll tell you why. Like, I don't like movies that are poorly written where writers think that if they acknowledge that the movie is poorly written diegetically within the movie, that somehow excuses the lazy writing. It doesn't. An SNL skit where they stop in the middle and go, oh, this is a crappy skit, wasn't it? Doesn't excuse it. Yes, I do think that, I mean, there are plenty of people who are cruel who don't realize that they're cruel. But I don't think recognizing that you are cruel makes you any less cruel. In fact, if anything, I feel it's probably the opposite. Like, if you know that you have the potential to be cruel and you are being cruel, then if anything, you're more culpable than someone who isn't even aware that they're being cruel and they're just doing it. They may be. It's sort of the manatee thing from Jim Gaffigan, where manatees could, for all we know, manatees could hate humans and want to try and kill us every chance they get, but since all they can do is kind of like brush up against us and we think it's cute, and Nietzsche's have often laughed at those who thought themselves kind merely because they had no claws, right? You have to be able to be cruel in order to, you have to have a certain set of characteristics in order to be cruel. And if we're talking about separating out like the act versus the intent, or the desire versus, say, like a conscious desire to fight it, or doing something so instinctually that you don't realize that you're doing it, like, what is better? And we've had that conversation a bunch of times in a bunch of different ways. Like, if you're aware, like, what's better? Okay, and I have a point of view on this. So I'm going to skip down to the bottom right now just so I can interact with people on this particular thing. So I'm sorry if I'm missing what people listed here. But so let's do this. So what would you rather do? How about this? Who would you rather, I mean, this is a ridiculous way of putting it, but who would you rather be a roommate with? Someone who does not possess the instinct or desire to kill, but who has killed before, or someone who has the instinct and the desire to kill, but has not killed. So it's the potential versus the act. And there's all kinds of arguments you can make for both sides of that, right? Like the person who has the desire to kill but does not is restraining themselves because they realize that it is immoral, and yet they have killed, and they they have not killed, but they have that desire, right? And then the person who does not have the desire but who has done it, they've uncorked that bottle in a way, and therefore, even though they maybe they don't desire to kill. I guess that's an oversimplification, but it's sort of just kind of like pointing out that it's not. I think it's a good analogy for just pointing out that it's not as easy as being like, oh, well, if you are aware that you can be cruel and you try and stop yourself from being cruel, but you fail, you are a better person than someone who is not aware that they're being cruel. Like, I just don't know where that line's. Just because you're trying to get better, if you're not doing it, I don't know. That points towards like more self-awareness, and that points towards a desire to improve and perhaps be rehabilitated. But it certainly doesn't guarantee it. And yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll leave it at that. Taylor. Oh, no, sorry. Colorful. Trying to get Taylor. Ecamm is still doing this stupid thing. Is someone with a psychological or emotional issue more responsible for that issue if they choose not to address that issue? I mean, that issue could be part of why they don't choose to address it, I suppose. I mean, I would say generally, if they're aware of the issue, they could be in denial about it, and that could be part of it. All of this could be psychological or physiological, or both, I guess. Yeah, no, Stacy, please. Okay, nobody do this, but I appreciate that. I'm not offended. I just, not the point. But thank you. Jeff, was the odd question? Yeah, it is an odd question. I totally agree. It is an odd question. But it's one that I've talked about before, and I've talked about like with partners before, where it's sort of like I am not interested in somebody who is good for lack of opportunity. I'm not interested in action that appears good, but is really only the result of like the options that you were given. I'm not interested in that at all. I'm far more interested in the good or the strength that comes from being provided with all of those options. In the case we're talking about, maybe your roommate has an untraceable pistol. I don't know, right? And you have no family and would not be missed by anybody, right? Like maybe there's all these things that would make it very easy for them to do what they wanted to do. And I would it's a bad faith example for a couple of reasons. One being like, we're talking about like, it only has to happen once, and then when it happens, that's it, right? If we're talking about something more like cruelty, there can be a sort of a graduated effort towards, okay, I'm less cruel now than I was a year ago. I guess you could kill less now, but it doesn't. By that time, you as the roommate would be killed. So yeah, it's not perfect. And I lost my train of thought. So yeah, I think this would be my. I don't know. Because you got to remember the other person has self-awareness, understands the morality of what they're doing. They would be more likely to be like a Dexter than, say, a Dahmer, right? And I don't bring up Dahmer because of this. I have not seen the new Dahmer show. I'm not really interested in watching it. Yeah, see, Lisa, this is the thing, right? Like, there is that thing. Like, once you've killed, and I wouldn't know, but once you've killed, like, you've sort of let the genie out. And that sort of huge taboo, which would be, I would imagine, very, very difficult to overcome the first time, might not be so difficult the second, right? So, but that's outside the. I guess I'm thinking maybe if we can leave that out, because that's outside the realm of like just trying to make this a theoretical, a thought experiment of like, would you rather be with or do you value someone more who doesn't do something, or who has done something? I'm losing track of what it was. Let me frame it another way. Let me frame it the way that I usually frame it, which has gotten me in trouble before. You're with a partner and their crush is Olivia Wilde. I'm just choosing that because she's been in the news lately for some crappy things, but whatever. So would you rather be with somebody who, say, was taken to an island with Olivia Wilde where they stayed a month together alone, just the two of them, and Olivia Wilde was attracted to this person who also had a crush on Olivia Wilde, and that person was able to be like, no, I'm not going to do this. Or would you rather be with the person who has not been tested, and will likely never be tested? And in a way, it's just like it's a non-issue because it's just never going to happen. It is that joke. I wish I remember who told this joke, but the joke was something like. Keep in mind, this joke is from like maybe 20 years ago, so it is a little tasteless. Yeah, this is a tasteless joke. Oh, geez, I'll tell it anyway. The joke was, my wife's not speaking to me right now. Like we had a deal where if we had the opportunity to be with our biggest crush, that we would be able to take it and we'd give each other a pass. And she chose Brad Pitt and I chose our babysitter and I won, and she's mad about that. Right? Yeah, it's not really a funny joke, is it? What a username. Blind for Love is my ultimate jam. Okay. Would rather hang with the person who doesn't have the desire to kill. In hospitals, you're taught to ask people if they have a desire to harm themselves or others. If they say yes, you'd better be on high alert. So, but that also kind of exposes like the story is why it's not such a great thought experiment. It's meant to be more about like, is it better to be trying to improve yourself and aware of what I've already said it a bunch of times. I'm diagnosing all of you with a case of nothing. I don't want to do it. Yeah, but Dexter sort of channeled his desires into the greater good or whatever. Is the new Dahmer show, is it like, yeah, I've heard both sides of it. Like I've heard people say it's amazing. I've heard people say it's absolutely terrible. Yes, Charlie, this is exactly like the point I'm trying to get at. Yeah. Someone who doesn't want to be cruel but knows they can be cruel has the awareness of when they are cruel, unlike someone who isn't or hasn't. A gun in the hand of an inexperienced owner. That's a good one. Yeah, let's take it away from murder and like back to cruelty. It's a little more, a little less. Helicopter coming. Are we losing the plot? Yeah, we've lost the plot. All right. Seabreeze does. Welcome. Yeah, but like for instance, Hannibal. I very much enjoyed Hannibal. And I've rewatched it, and I would watch it again. I realize the difference is one of these things actually happened, right? So, yeah, let's move on a little bit. Why don't we do that? Boots and cats and boots and cats and Halloween ends. So I saw Sure, this matters, Amy. Of course. Yeah, exactly. But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? Like you have this condition, and you've done a lot of work on yourself to, if not overcome it, but if that's not possible, to subdue it, at least. And that speaks to your character. Someone who has never faced these trials, you don't know if that happens, you don't know how they're going to act. Well, Pivy, you have to say something of worth to the conversation for me to acknowledge it. Zing. Zing. Yeah, this does not add. Anyway, Halloween Ends. I saw Halloween Ends. A very divisive movie, but Halloween is coming up. I'm not going to spoil anything about Halloween Ends, in case anyone is worried. But I do want to kind of talk about a little bit about why I feel like the movie has gotten a bad rap, which I don't think it deserves. I think, oh man, Olivia knows me. Olivia knows me. I want to get back to Halloween. But yeah, Olivia definitely knows. Those lights aren't new. They're new in that position. I do have some new lights. And I've reached, I feel like I have reached critical light mass for this room, and I'm gonna share it with you right now. Like, what if you had to imagine? Like, here we have two camera views, right? If you had to imagine how many lights it took to light this room the way that it is, and Q, by the way, I saw your post on Halloween Ends and the comparison between the two, and I was actually thinking about and working up something to talk about with that has to relate with this. So I did screenshot your Discord post. And by the way, if you're here and you're not on the Discord, you should check out the Discord. Okay, so how many lights would you guess? How many lights are lighting this scene right now? And we can vote on it. Because yes, I have gotten some new lights that I love. I'm a big fan of them so far. They're relatively Old Man Hiver. Old Man Hiver's got it. And Jeff too, yes. Yeah. So here's a picture of, I did a quick panorama of what I see when I'm sitting here as of now. I've done this before, but it changes a lot. So this is kind of what I see from my point of view when I'm sitting here. Okay? I think everybody gets that reference, Jeff. And this is the lights that are 180 degrees in front of me. So this has nothing to do with the lights that are behind me. But in just this scene, just what you can see right here, I hate that it does this. Cam is still not perfect. You can see there is what is called a Luxley cello, which is clamped to the side, starting from the left. A Luxley cello clamped to the side of the bookcase, pointed towards the practical sort of Eastern European light that I have hanging there, which you really only see any remnant of here. It's that kind of bluish light that you can see. You don't even see the hanging light here. Oh, it's cropping the image a little bit because I see it in my monitor, but not here. And then you see my new lights, which are these 4-foot tube lights. It's the sort of yellowish light that you see sort of parallel to the book stands, with a little bit of cinefoil on them to block them from lighting up. That's why I can still have these darks back here, because there aren't really there's not really a directional component to those tube lights. It's their one weakness, and I think they're working on resolving that. Then as you continue, just above the left monitor, you can see the spotlight, which is what is providing the illusion of like blinds or light coming in through the window here. Then you move one more over and you see a white rectangular light, and that is a Kino Flow Diva, which has been like my main light for years and years. It's an expensive light, but it is an excellent RGB light that is multi-purpose, can be really, really strong. And beneath that, you can see the main camera that you're seeing me through right now, which is right there. Then next to that, you see a gridded bluish square 2x2 LED light, which is the Amran F20. It's worth noting, every light I've mentioned so far, with the exception of the first one, is an aperture light. So they're all controlled by my phone. So the 2x2 gridded light is 2 feet by 2 feet, just above the monitor on the right. That's giving this sort of blue, part of this blue cast to my face. Then going to the 4-foot tube light, which is sort of the mate of the 4-foot tube light that is yellow on the other side, which hits here a little stronger. So in this scene right here, in that scene, you see there are 6 lights. Is that right? 6 lights in this scene. So that's the first 180 degrees in front of me, right? Whoops. Nope. Okay, so then I have the 2 MT Pros that you see here that are doing this sort of, it's doing a little bit of accent lights on the shelves. There is a Fresnel behind me pointing at the back of my head. It's what's doing the hair. It's way up high, kind of pointing down that way. There is a practical light, which again, you don't really see but it's up on that corner there. And that's it. I'm not using any of the MC lights, which are like these. I'm not using any of these tonight. Although I'm sure I could find a use for them somewhere. Not using any of them right now. Okay. I'm sure I could find a place to put these. So the answer is... Well, the answer was not on the poll. The answer is 10 lights. I thought it was at 12, but 9. I'm going to give it to you if you said 9. That's about right. Yeah, 10 lights. So I've definitely reached some kind of critical mass with lights where I need to stop. Literally 10 people have left since I started talking about lights. 10 lights, 10 people gone. Good night, Kathy. Well, yeah, so Warp Raven, like I used to light in a way that sort of echoed what my final intent was going to be, or I would light for the flatness of the profile. If you're live streaming, it's a little different, right? And in this case, I want to be able to close my lens down a little bit on both of these cameras. So, and you could probably tell by my pupils are pretty small. It is pretty darn bright in here and kind of warm, but since it was 35 degrees this morning when I woke up, 35 degrees, I did not want to get up this morning. I can tell you that. Yeah, sucked. I don't have to worry about it getting warm here. And most of these LED lights don't give off a lot of heat, but they, it adds up when you got 10 of them and multiple computers running audio interface, mixer. Yeah, there's a lot of electric things that are on right now that are warming up this room. Oh, good night, Jeff. Have a good night. So yeah, 10 lights. All right, so back to what I was talking about before. Halloween ends. Let me have a sip of water. If you are a fan of 80s horror movies that are slightly campy, if you are not a Halloween purist, but can enjoy a movie that is called Halloween, but is not the fan service that, say, the 2018 Halloween was, I think, to its detriment, then I think that you will really like Halloween Ends. And I feel like when I see something that is split down the middle like that on Rotten Tomatoes, like that's the signal to me, like that is a movie you want to go see, right? For me, like I want something that is divisive like that. And I may be on one side of it, I may be on the other. I've long complained about my problems with the Rotten Tomatoes method of if you don't hate a movie, it's a hit, which means that you can have movies at 100% that everyone just thought were okay. You can have a movie that has a 100% hit rate as long as every critic thought the movie was not bad, and which skews these towards milquetoast movies scoring higher, and movies that actually might provoke the ire of some, but the adulation of others being right there around that 50% point. So for me, when I look at Rotten Tomatoes, if I see a movie that's sitting at 50%, that's a movie I want to go see. if you're, like I said, if you're a Halloween purist, and I mean Halloween, the series, you're probably not going to like it. But if you are a fan of 80s horror movies, I'm talking about like, Christine, movies that, let's say, like their goal was not necessarily to scare you. It's sort of like a, well, see, I don't want to spoil it, so I'm having trouble here. It's not a fucking battle. It's not a battle between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. That's not what Halloween Ends is at all. I think it has a higher calling than that. But that depends on your point of view, right? And like, you may really, after this many movies, you may really be aching for that, a 2-hour long face-off between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. And, you know, if that's the case, then go watch the 2018 Halloween. Or watch the first one again, you know. Watch the babysitter murders again. But something that Q brought to my attention, which I can bring up here. This is, so I touched on this a little while ago about how crazy it was making me that so many movies now light everything exactly the same way. They have milky blacks, right? Because that is cinematic, right? They always have practical lights in every scene with color contrast. I mean, I'm doing that now. I'm not saying that, but I'm also not making a movie, right? They have to have like lots of depth, right? So they need to have like multiple layers, and the color contrast there between like the warmth behind Michael, how cold Michael is, and then how Laurie Strode in the front here is, you know, pretty interesting. You know, something else that they do here, and this is interesting because they did this in Smile. And Ivy Anna, I called this out to her. And this is like no big revelation or anything like that, but it is definitely something that movies are so obsessed with today that is distracting to me, which is upstage lighting. So you will rarely ever see a shot of someone who is featured in a shot, like a 2-shot or a close-up, or even if it gets to a wider shot, it starts to be more of a hit and miss. But then you're looking at like the characters who are active in that scene. But you're always going to see upstage lighting in those cases. And they're doing it here on Laurie Strode. And upstage lighting is when the shadowed side of the face is to the camera. So for me right now, upstage lighting would be this, but I still have a lot of light on the side of my face. Like I would have to turn off those lights, right? Or make them significantly darker. And that does make an image look more interesting. It gives you like the rim light of the nose. It gives you more interesting textures in the face. It does a lot. But when you start doing that in every scene, everywhere, and every scene is like set up and blocked so that you can do that. So you have like practical lights behind the actors. It just gets to the point where when I'm watching it anyway, right? Like where it gets distracting to me because I'm like, look, somehow, some magical way, every shot in this movie managed to have the far side of the actor's face lit and the side close to the camera in shadow. And there's a legitimate reason for that, right? Like when video cameras came out, they had like a big light on them. When the news cameras have a big light on them, generally if you see like someone in a shot and they're getting strong light from the front, that throws off a I am videotaping you or you are on the news kind of vibe. It's just like all things in moderation, you know, kind of cute. Maximum Overdrive. So that's an 80s movie. that I loved. But anyway, like to me, I mean, one of these is a much more effective scene than the other. It's the original. It is the John Carpenter. And it's not, well, I mean, yes, part of it is the fact that Laurie Strode there looks much more frightened. But part of it is that all you're seeing is like a little bit of Michael Myers' mask. We didn't need to see all of him. We didn't need to see the practical lights behind him for your color contrast so that your DP can justify his price tag, I suppose. I don't hate the way Jamie Lee Curtis looks in the bottom one, but I much prefer the top one. Something that like Q has mentioned, I've yammered on about this before, but like if you right now like go look at like a scene from The Shining, like generally what people consider cinematic these days, and you go look at something like The Shining breaks a lot of those rules. The Shining is but that was what Stanley Kubrick did, right? Like with Barry Lyndon, he went for natural light. Now, every time you have a dramatic movie or a horror movie now, you get intense blue light, kind of like I do here, but more intense than this, coming from one side behind to make it look like, moonlight coming in through a window. And then you get warm light from some practical light in the scene, a lamp or something like that, over illuminating the face. And that's just like, I get sick of that. I noticed that in Men, and it got on my nerves, but mostly like I just noticed it in movies where it's just like they hire a DP, but they don't have a specific vision for the movie. One movie that I feel like did it right was Knives Out. Like Knives Out uses a lot of these same techniques that I'm talking about, but specifically did it, like you could tell their vision was the house as a character. Like just like in The Shining, the hotel was a character. The house in Knives Out is a character, and I think that work was brilliant, right? And I can't wait for Glass Onion to come out. Warp Raven, yes. Oh, are you all aware? I'm guessing everyone is aware of this, but this is happening. Remake of Silent Hill 2. From what I could see from the trailer, it looks like a complete remake on the order of The Last of Us. Clearly you don't really have an understanding of mystery films. If you think that Knives Out had anything to do with Clue beyond what both Clue and Knives Out took from Agatha Christie, then I don't know what to tell you. Knives Out was about, like the mystery was incidental. Who done it didn't really matter in Knives Out. That was a character. That was a classist. That was a specifically a satire and a piece about classism, and it was brilliant. And I'm talking as someone who, well, I just hate all Star Wars, so it doesn't really mean anything for me to say I didn't like Rian Johnson's entry in the Star Wars game. I don't like any Star Wars anymore. But anyway, Silent Hill 2 coming out. Well, they didn't give a date. Well, because Silent Hill 1 was just running through the town shooting bat-like things in the fog. There was no particularly compelling narrative in Silent Hill 1. Silent Hill 1 was like a good, like it was interesting because at the time it sort of pushed what we thought we could do with the limits of I think it was the PS1 Or is it PS2? No, it's PS1. And using fog, using the ability that you can't have much of a draw distance. Silent Hill 1 was able to take advantage of that, which was cool. But Silent Hill 2 is like, I mean, for a lot of people of maybe my generation or a little bit younger, or people who really liked horror games, or, I don't know exactly what the age range was for Silent Hill 2. Oh, well, you really liked Silent Hill 1. Okay. I liked Silent Hill 1. I didn't dislike Silent Hill 1. I don't think it comes close to Silent Hill 2 in any way. Apart from, like I said, the way that it pushed the sort of genre forward and was able to create something. I mean, how many polygons could the PlayStation 1 push? A couple hundred tops? 32 by 32 pixels, 64 by 64 pixels, something like that. I'm excited about this. It's being done by Bloober, who have done like some good work. I'm not a fan of their name. From the trailer, the only thing that was a little bit weird to me, some of the character models looked hyper realistic in some ways, but still not hyper realistic in their facial proportions. So it almost felt like they didn't quite make the choice to be like, okay, let's make this look like a real person. And yet they really did all the sort of subsurface scattering stuff and like individual hairs and the beard and all this kind of stuff that was hyper realistic, but just the proportions of the face are still a little cartoony. But I don't care about any of that. If it can come close, because I tried replaying Silent Hill 2 fairly recently and I had trouble with it. I'm fully. Oh, well, Nasha, look, this may be your opportunity. If this is a well done remake, then, there's like Silent Hill 2 compared to Resident Evil, it's a joke. Like, I guess Resident Evil 7 you can make a case for as being as good as some of the best of Silent Hill. Well, but Bloober's not making their stories. This is a remake of Silent Hill 2. So all they're going to have to do is tell the story that they were given. And as long as it's not as clunky, but like the Alan Wake remake was not really a remake. It's a remaster more. So as long as it's a true, it's probably never coming out. There was no announcement on when it was coming out. Probably take forever. But if and when it does come out, and it is anything at all like the experience of playing through Silent Hill 2 the first time, that'll be a week of my life that I'm not doing anything. But it might be a good place for you Nasha, to get on the Silent Hill train. Maybe not. I don't know. What else do I got here? Oh, I already showed that. Yeah, Halloween ends, lights, Halloween the book. Oh, I think I already went over this, but I Amazoned this book, which I read when I was a little kid, and it was one of my favorite pop-up books when I was a little kid. And it's kind of meta in that it just presents itself as a haunted house, not really as a book, right? So like, let yourself in, right? And you let yourself in it, and I noticed after I got it, and I was like, oh, thank God. Like, it just, whoops. Let's point the camera. Listen to that. Is this book. This is ASMR in a book. And at the time, these pop-ups were pretty incredible. Whoops, I'm holding back. I gotta be careful with it. It is quite old. But it makes great noises. Oh, listen to that. Hey, how you doing? It creaks like a haunted house. I don't know that was intentional. I think it's just age, but maybe it was intentional. I can tell you one thing about this guy. He needs his tonsils removed. Those are not healthy looking tonsils back there. But anyway, this book is going to be the source of my Halloween themed ASMR video. I will be, there's not much to read. Like, it's literally just like you let yourself in, and there's like a line of text at the bottom of every page, but that's about it. It's about, a doctor who goes into the haunted house. But guess what? He never comes out. And yeah, it has a bit of monster at the end of this book vibes. That's also one of my favorites and was one of Charlie's favorites. That reminds me of this. So I saw a clip of the Breeders. Big fan of the Pixies and the Breeders, of course. And Kim and Kelly Deal did this. I gotta be sure the sound is on right for this. Let's see, is this gonna work? That reminds me of this. So I saw a clip of
Josephine, what do you
the
think?
Breeders.
Overrated.
Big fan
If
of the
you've got
Pixies
a bad one
and
that
the
didn't
Breeders,
do what
of
you
course.
asked it to do,
And Kim and Kelly
Oh, I
Deal
do know, yeah.
did this.
I'm thinking maybe overrated. When people
I'm
have
sure the
babies,
sound
they
is
just think,
on right.
they like chop off a piece of themselves and they put it out there in the world. It's all ego, isn't it? Look at me, look at how cute I am. Aren't I adorable? And it's all them and ego, and it's all that. I mean, I know that we're supposed to, procreate for the species to live and to exist and to go forward, but we don't really have to. We don't have to go forward. The universe just doesn't need us to be around. The earth doesn't need us to be here crawling around like a virus going on. This would never exist without me. Blah. Breeding is overrated.
I found that to be quite entertaining, and I'm admittedly a bit of a negative utilitarianist, a bit of a humanity is a blight on the face of the planet. Thought it was interesting because the name of their band is the Breeders, and they were asked, "Is breeding overrated?" And yeah. The Scholastic Book Fair. Oh my God. Damn it. Ecamm. Screwing with me. Yeah. Or like the Bookmobile. Our bookmobile, I don't know if this was all bookmobiles, but the bookmobile that came to my elementary school was zebra painted. And I was always so excited when it got there. And I would get like a little bit of money and be able to go get a couple, and that was just like, I was happy as a clam. Well, generally, I thought that was funny just because, the name of their band is the Breeders. If you're not familiar with the Breeders canon, you could start with Cannonball to get yourself acquainted with the Breeders, or you could listen to the Pixies. Either way, you're in for a good time. Oh yeah, I remember this stuff. It's vague, but I remember, yeah, it was like it was like redeeming rewards for reading a certain amount of books and like bookathons and that kind of stuff. Oh, man. No, I just saw it today. Nasha, this is one of your negative traits, I think, starting to show itself. But that's okay. That's all right. I see you. I appreciate you. And I did feel a little clever. So, well, the joke's on you, Nasha, because I felt bad before the joke. So I don't feel worse after the joke, but I do feel bad. Just not any worse than before. That's about all I got on my list. I'm very excited about Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Oh, I wanted to watch Y Tu Mamá También again tonight. I don't know if I might be able to do that, but I want to do that. I was so horribly disappointed by, I don't know what I was expecting, but the Disney Pinocchio that came out a couple months ago was just so damn bad. One of the worst movies I've seen. Just so difficult to sit through. I was sitting through it with my progeny, who I also look at and am like, be better than me. Is anyone impressed with the child who is better than me? I gotta say, Charlie, I don't think so. That game just didn't grab me. I would love to stream something on Halloween. I have to see. On Halloween itself, I'm going to be busy, but I will try to figure something out. But I just can't wait for the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio to come out. And I'm hoping, I think it's just coming out on Netflix, though. I don't think it's actually coming out anywhere else. Which is disappointing because I would have loved to see it just like, let's just say in ratings, like clobber the fuck out of the Disney. So Scorn to me looks like shit. Like Scorn to me looks like what I feared it would be. Which is, hey, H.R. Giger's cool, and, we're just going to do like a Myst, but 3D, and everything looks like organic. Just didn't seem like they were like the reviews. Most of the reviews that I've read are, there's not much of a story here, which is, there's some emergent story that you figure out, which that kind of feels like code to me. Look, just enjoy like trying to figure out where to line up the different balls with the lights so that you can open the door and then get to the next part. And also, it seemed like it's not scary. It's atmospheric, but I mean that only takes you so far. If there's no strong narrative to it, and it's not scary, and it's redundant, and the puzzles are just sort of like tacked on and rather illogical, I just don't want to. Well, see, actually, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie. I've read the short story. Or it's either a short story or it's part of a story built into one of his longer stories. I don't remember, but it's, about like a guy an old man who dies, and then the kid has a cell phone, and there's a cell phone in the coffin, and the old man ends up calling somehow the guy from the cell phone. I forget the original, where that came from. Did that come from I don't know if that came from a collection of Stephen King short stories, or if it was just like a story that he told in one of his longer novels. I don't remember. But I did like it, so I probably will check that out. I'm going to be doing something for Halloween. I mean, this is what I'm doing for Halloween. And it's going to be great, because it's going to be... this guy telling it. This guy with his Haunted House Halloween book and his brand. Haven't used him in a video in years. It's been years. But he's just as squishy as he's ever been. Oh, and I am interested in the Dead Space remake too. Or remaster, whatever they're calling that. All right. Thank you all for, I think it was really cool that you all decided to, go along with sharing the stories about, or I'm sorry, your traits, your negative traits. It's good to get that stuff out. Get a little sunlight on it. Think about it a little bit. I feel like compared to, it's got to be relative. Compared to other streams that I've done, I feel like this was a relatively upbeat stream. Your mileage may vary. I don't know what to say. All right. So I hope everybody has a good night. And that's episode 85 in the books. 80. What comes after 85? 86. That's a portentous number. We got through 13. We will get through 86 together. There's a part of me that wants to let this go to 2 hours because we're so close to 2 hours. And it would feel good to just end right at the 2 hour mark, which means I got to fill 2 minutes. Maybe I can do that by saying good night to everyone. Good night, Blue Regen. Good night, Q. Good night, Pivy. I'm sorry I didn't read enough of your stuff for you to feel hurt. Good night, Colorful Dreams. Good night, Evie. Good night, Charlie. Good night, Warp Raven. Good night, Hollow Fox. Good night. Hi. Good night, Lisa. Good night, Nasha. Scott Hendrickson. Good night, wherever you are, too. It's been a bit since I've seen you. Good night, this guy. And yeah, you too. Thanks for bringing up some memories. Fencing with my Well, there you go. 2 hours, what do we got now? We got 1 more minute. Okay. Alphabet backwards. I am still talking. I don't think I'm going to do a song. Good night, Jim Bob. Olivia, good night. Hollow Fox. John Boy. Oh my God, are we doing this is a Waltons reference, isn't this? Is this a Waltons reference? I don't think I've thought about the Waltons. Oh boy. I don't know when the last time I thought about the Waltons was. But Lisa, was that a Waltons? Oh yeah. It's great. I've also been watching the new season of Avenue 5 just because it's got Hugh Laurie and it's Armando Iannucci, and that show still sucks, man. I don't know. Really disappointed in that show. So 2 hours, but I don't want to end with this still up. So There we go. Thank you for sticking around to the 2-hour mark. And I'll see you all soon. Take care.